Hi, this is Mandy from Mending Mandy. Thank you so much for checking out my videos. I know I'm new to YouTube, so I definitely appreciate you guys, taking a chance on my content and your time. So thank you for your time. Today I wanted to talk about the psychological manipulation of abuse. So as I'm thinking about psychological manipulation, it's really a subset of psychological abuse. It's a part of it, and a big part at that. And the reason I think it is such a big part of abuse is because that's where the confusion comes from. That's where the abuser will play with your head. It's really a lot of mind games. And this manipulation can really keep you stuck in the relationship. So how? Well, by definition, manipulation is making you do something. I don't want to say making you do something, but it is surreptitiously deceiving you to behave in certain ways. So they're kind of sneakily molding your behavior without you even realizing it. And that's really what the psychological war is when you are in this kind of relationship. It's mind games. And the reason they do this, the reason they manipulate you, is to keep in control of you. A lot of abuse is based on control, in my opinion. So they want to control you, and the way they do that is manipulate your worldview or your perspective to match their own. And they will defend that perspective, at least my abuser did, to the end of the earth. There is no talking them out of it. And if you think about it, if you are so convinced that their perspective is the only one, they can feed you anything and you'll believe it. I know I did. I was a teenager, and I know I was still a child, but the things that I believed, after I left, it was like, how did I believe all of that? And that is because a lot of it is because of manipulation. So how do people manipulate? How do abusers keep you so hooked, into their own mindset so they can control you? Well, gaslighting is an example of manipulation, and that's a big one. And gaslighting can basically be them telling you that, again, your perspective's wrong, or they could lie about facts, to make you think that you're basically going insane. And this is something that my abuser did to me a lot, to kind of keep me in her perspective, to keep me in her worldview, to keep me trapped there. And an example of that would be even something as simple as they tell you something, and then days later when you bring it up, they're like, I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about, but I never said that, when you know that they said it. That's a way to make you question your own sanity. And this is one of the main tactics that my abuser used. And I had to start writing things down because I literally for a while thought that I was going crazy. So another example of psychological manipulation and ways that they can keep you, in their perspective is vilifying, also called projection. So this kind of reminds me of staring in a mirror, because the abuser will stand there and tell you that you're all of these negative traits. But when you really look at the evidence and their actions, you see that they are those traits. It's really interesting. And I think that that's a defense mechanism. They don't want to actually look into themselves and see, who they are as people. All they want to do is cast the blame on someone else. And I think that's very subconscious. They're not consciously being like, oh, I know I'm a liar, so let me just call her a liar to acquit me of any guilt. Like, that's not, I don't think that that's a conscious process. That alone would be insane. So, for an example, my abuser was a parental figure, not my mom or dad. She was not in any way related to me. Not that that's important. You might have abusers that are related to you. So we were very religious. We were very radical Christian, not a healthy Christian, but radical. And my main goal was to be a good Christian. I don't say that out of arrogance. Oh, I want to be a good Christian. I just say it because that was what I wanted, what I was focused on as a young teen. So a lot of times she would tell me that I was a liar and deceitful, secretive, and she would tell me that even if I just innocently forgot to tell her something, like, oh, I went to lunch with this person today. And if she didn't like the person, she would say, oh, that was secretive. And it's not really secretive. It's just I didn't think it was important. I just went to lunch with a friend. Another thing she would tell me is you're rebellious. You're rebellious to the word of God. You are sinful. You don't care about him. Things like that. And the third thing that she really harped home with me is that you idolize a man. And idolize is basically a word by some Christians that describe putting something above God, putting it as an idol. So she was basically saying I would sin at no cost because what I wanted to worship wasn't God, it was men. And for the record, I never even had a boyfriend till I was 21, and I wound up marrying him. So anyway, I don't want to argue here, but so these were used a lot to make me feel bad about myself and to question my own identity. And it did. But when I looked at the reality, it was really just a lie. Because when I went back through, okay, you're secretive, you're a liar, Amanda. So years later, I went back through and there was so much that I uncovered, a lot of secrecy about her. And so for an example, she had control of my adoptive father, who was my grandfather. My grandfather adopted my sister and I. She was the executor of the estate of my grandfather. I called him Dad. And when it all came to fruition, when everything was said and done, there was a lot of abuse of his finances. She stole money from him. She would have questionable receipts. So when she's calling me deceptive, it's like, that was you. She said I was disobedient to God, but she was the one abusing two girls who had to be taken in by someone else because her parents were dying. And she said that I idolized a man, except that she would abuse us for the sake of her husband. And it was in no way sexual. I don't mean sexual. I just mean, some examples where she limited my sisters and my hygiene. So we were not allowed to use the bathroom at any given time that we wanted. I know it sounds weird, but we would go into the bathroom, and the rule of the household was that if her husband knocked, we had to get out because he wanted to use the bathroom. And that was the only reason. It was just he wanted what he wanted, and he would not wait for us to go to the bathroom. I know teenage girls take a while, but it's no excuse. You don't limit someone's hygiene. The other thing that she would do is she would limit our showers to when they went to bed, and she would limit us going to the bathroom for when they went to bed because they didn't fix the bathroom properly. There was a sheet hanging that divided their room and the bathroom, and the flushing would wake them up. So they would go to bed really early sometimes. But again, we were not allowed to go to the bathroom past their bedtime, which was like 7 or 8 o'clock. So that limited our hygiene. At the same time, they didn't want us to flush because it woke them up, but they didn't want us to go to the bathroom because her husband was grossed out that there would be, feces in the toilet in the morning. So we were caught at this double standard. And, to make a long-winded story short, this was abusive. You don't limit someone's hygiene to where they're going to the bathroom outside because your husband can't stand flushing. So anyway, she abused us for the sake of her husband. That's idolizing a man, as she would put it, idolizing. So this is all projection. This is all them casting their faults onto you. And this can make you crazy because it's not only attacking facts and truth, it's attacking the truth about yourself. You don't know who you are because you've got this person who's very influential. Obviously, you're in a relationship with them. They're influential. You love them. And they're telling you that you're basically a piece of crap. It's confusing. It's manipulation. It's wrong. So other ways, we covered gaslighting and projection. Another way that people can manipulate you, your abuser can manipulate you, is insults and minimization. So my abuser would scream at me for a long time, just scream, 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 out of control of themselves, and then would just say that I was too sensitive about it, minimizing it. It wasn't that bad. I didn't, it's not like I punched you, you're so paranoid. Or, how dare you? What do you really think of me? You should know better. I'm not like XYZ. I was just joking. And that's another big one because it's a passive-aggressive way to hide, to conceal again. They were actually not making a joke about you, but they pass it off as one. That's a way that they can manipulate you. Anger. Anger is a big one. And not only do you feel crazy, does it make you question your worldview and buy into theirs, the anger really concretes it. You know what I'm trying to say? The anger really makes you feel like, wow, I am so bad that I have to be punished with this anger. When you're in that mindset of, I am so crappy, and then you're getting like ridiculous anger, it just really like seals the coffin for you. You're like, yup, that's me. I'm a piece of crap so much that I deserve this. So with my abuser, there was a lot of explosions, yelling, and really, what is screaming at someone, berating someone like that? It is a way to dominate them. And we all get mad. We all raise our voices. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about full-fledged screaming every single time there's an argument. It is a way to shut you down, to make you not want to confront them anymore, and to make you not even try to question them. Because again, they don't want you questioning the worldview or them a lot of the time. I know my abuser didn't. So physical, my abuser never actually hit me, but she did threaten me. But you may be going through physical. Maybe someone's physically hurting you, and that's not okay. And that's a way to manipulate you, get you to be quiet. My abuser would raise her hand to my face and scream at me and get in my personal space to try to intimidate me, which is funny because she was not that tall. And I'm like 5'7". But anyway, so at a certain point, because of all of the anger, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. That feeling of, oh, am I going to set her off? Is she going to go off on me? Did I do something wrong? Like your nerves are shot because this anger has been used against you to manipulate you. Molding. You see how that molds you into not questioning, into walking on eggshells, into catering to them. They walk into a room, you get silent, you stop what you're doing. You're like, oh, I must be the best I can be for them. It's conditioning. Another way, and this doesn't have to be just from parental figures. This can be from spouses, punishing or discipline, however you want to look at it. Discipline in its pure form, in a good form, it can be good for child development, but it can be a tactic that can be used to abuse people, to basically suppress and isolate, as well as assert psychological control over someone. I know for me, my abuser kind of used this to keep me in a childlike state, even though I was, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, getting into my adult years. But this discipline, for me, it was severe. The punishment didn't fit the crime. And it was also used just as a way to keep me in that childlike obedience. Oh, yes, I'll do whatever you say. So I'll go over more of this in the upcoming videos that I'm going to be posting because there's a lot here. But basically, you know, an example of this for me is rules. My abuser would set stricter rules even as I was an adult. I was 20 years old, and this is an example. When I was 20, I was upstairs in the living room after she had gone to bed, and she had this weird thing that she didn't want anyone to be up when she went to bed. So I was up in the living room on my computer, and I was talking to a guy who's now my husband, actually, and she came out and claimed that I was waking her up and I should be in bed. But I would have gone downstairs, but I was also not allowed to have any devices in my room. And the next day, she hardcore questioned me about all of this, and I asserted my right that I should be able to talk to boys, as we're 20 years old, and have a boyfriend if I wish. So because of this, because I spoke against what she wanted for me, what she believed, she took away my computer that I bought as a full adult for 3 months. And the tragedy isn't that she tried to take away my computer, it's that I was in the mental state to let her, in a way, because I was an adult. And there was nothing wrong with me just simply innocently talking to a boy at 20 years old. So anyway, punishment didn't fit the crime. I was an adult, and it suppressed me into childlike obedience. The last couple things are very, very manipulative and a detriment to me. So, and it might be to you. It was preying on what you love most. So we'll get to this at a later video as well. There's a lot to cover here. There's going to be a lot of overlap. But basically, you know, you get into arguments with them, and then they say really unfair statements about maybe what you love. Maybe they put down what you love as well. I liked video games, and my abuser would incessantly taunt me about them and say they were such a waste of time. That's an example. Or my abuser, when I was 20 years old, didn't want me to go away to college. I had the money saved up. I had scholarships, but she didn't want me to go. And it wasn't a case of money. It wasn't influence because I was going to a Christian college. It was she wanted me to stay where she could keep her eyes on me. And we agreed at one point that I would go. She was like, okay, this is God's will for you. You're going to go. Well, about a couple months before I went to go to this college, she told me, this isn't God's will, something I loved. She used that against me. This isn't God's will. And if you go, you're abandoning your twin sister, someone I loved. That's not fair. Manipulation. So rationalization, this is a big one. A lot of abusers don't actually say sorry, in my opinion. This is all my experience. They don't say sorry. A lot of the times they will just rationalize. I heard this over and over and over growing up about multiple things, everything. Oh, Amanda, I wouldn't have had to scream at you for 30 minutes, but you really needed it. You just can't get it through your skull. That's rationalization. So another one that's big is guilt trips. So it's obviously a guilt trip is when someone is harping on you about something you did wrong, and they just won't let it go, and they just want to dig that knife into you that you screwed up so badly. And guilt trips can really shape you. It really attacks your self-image so hard, because you're like, wow, I really am a horrible person. I thought I was the worst sinner on the face of the earth. So the big one here, and the very killer one here, was that my abuser, she took us in after my mom died, and then my grandfather, dad, couldn't take care of us. So he lived with us as well. So we were under her roof, and whenever we got into an argument, and it was bad, the trump card was played, and it was, you know, Amanda, I didn't have to take you or your sister in. You don't have to be here. I don't have to be providing a house for you. I don't have to be providing food for you. I don't have to. And that was just so painful for me, because it made me feel like she didn't want me. She didn't want to take me in. She was begrudgingly taking me in because, you know, she said she would, and that was it. So I know we covered a lot, but these are just a few of the examples of psychological manipulation. We covered gaslighting, projection, guilt trips, insults, minimizations, anger, rationalization, preying on what you love most. And these are, like I said, these are only snippets, you know, these are only little pieces of the puzzle. And there are more. If you think that you're being abused, or you know that there's more and you'd like to comment, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear your comments. And, you know, if you are being abused, if you think you are, get help. Like, get with a psychologist if you can. Get with a counselor, someone who will listen. Because you shouldn't have to be going through that. And like, and I'm so sorry if you are. It's hell. It's hell. It's torture. It's psychological torture. So please get help. If you have any thoughts or anything that you'd like me to talk about in the next video, any comments, or you want to talk about your life story a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable, you don't have to. Or, you know, if you have any questions, just comment below, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thanks again for watching.